what might be, inside the stasis pod. Still holding her gun, Tamar crouched next to the open storage compartment and touched the Omni-scanner to the pod's surface again. The pod's control system was locked, of course, but the scanner, while not as good perhaps as a Weyland-Yutani product, was more than capable of granting her access. After several seconds, she was in, and she used the scanner's touchscreen to send the pod a command. Servo motors engaged, small black wheels emerged from the pod's bottom and sides, and the pod began to climb out of the compartment. Stasis pods this size were too heavy to lift, so they came equipped with movement assist tech. Tamar stood and faced the open doorway as the pod made its way up and onto the cabin floor. Tucking the Omni-scanner into a loop next to the comm on the side of her belt, she kept her gun trained on the door in case any more of her crewmates decided to make an appearance. Tamar was 6.5 feet tall, lean and muscular. She had sharp, hawkish features that were striking, if not especially pleasing, and wore her blonde hair cut short. Long hair gave an opponent something to grab. A sleeveless khaki t-shirt covered a new steel undergarment, along with tan slacks and knee-high black boots. She looked more like an athlete than she did a pirate, and while her crewmates wouldn't have been surprised to learn that she was a competition-level martial artist, they would have been very surprised to learn she'd just killed their captain. When the stasis pod finished climbing out of the storage compartment, Tamar stepped out into the corridor and looked both ways to make sure it was empty. It was. She jogged down the corridor, pistol in her right hand raised and ready to fire, the stasis pod whirring along behind her like an obedient pet. She wished she could speed up the damn thing, but it was designed to be sturdy, not fast. She had to force herself to keep from running full out. This had started as another routine smash-and-grab job. The Manticore was a pirate vessel, and the crew had thievery down to a science. They frequented well-known intersystem trade routes, constantly broadcasting a false distress signal. Eventually, a ship responded. Only the most cold-hearted people would abandon a crew out here in the cold, dark vastness of space. The Manticore waited until the Proximo was in range and then fired its railgun. The weapon used electromagnetic force to send multiple projectiles at great speeds, with devastating effect. They'd targeted the ship's engines and communications array, and once the boat was dead in the water, they docked and boarded. The crew of the defending ship had been ready to put up resistance, but the pirates of the Manticore were prepared for that. They came wearing breathing masks and throwing gas grenades. There was an exchange of gunfire, but it didn't last long, and the Manticore's crew were able to round up their wheezing, red-eyed victims and escort them to the ship's brig. After that, it was a simple matter to ransack the ship, searching for anything that could be sold on the black market. Tamar had served on the Manticore for the last 17 months, and during that time the crew had raided a dozen different ships, but none of them had ever presented such a prize as what she suspected lay inside the stasis pod. This was the reason she'd joined the Manticore's crew in the first place. She wasn't a pirate, and preferred to think of herself as a professional in the field of freelance information acquisition. Put simply, she was a spy. The galaxy, at least the small portion of it that humans had settled, was in a state of constant upheaval, but the nature of large-scale conflict was different now. No longer did nations strive against one another for control of territory and resources or to increase their global status. Out here, there were no countries, no governments, no rulers. There were only the megacorporations, constantly struggling to outcompete each other and increase their wealth and power. Tamar had been hired by one of the megacorps, Venture, and tasked with infiltrating a pirate crew to keep an eye out for any stolen items which the corporation might turn to its advantage. It was boring work, but it paid well enough, and she'd only signed on to 2 years with the Manticore and its crew. There were 9 months left before Venture gave her a new assignment, hopefully a more exciting one. During her time on the pirate vessel, she hadn't discovered a single thing that might be of even minor interest to her employers.